Welcome, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Facebook Live. It is the 10th of September, year 2025. So almost 24 years since we had September 11th happen, correct? That happened in 2001. So thoughts and prayers with all those that were affected during that time. It was like a traumatic event for this country. So with that, I wanted to welcome who we have on the panel today. It is Patricia, who's part of our core group of meditators. Good evening, Patricia. And then we have Josie here, who's listening to us. Thank you for being with us, Josie. Grateful for both your presences. And Patricia, I actually wanted to I think the last time when we were talking on Facebook Live, we dropped off where you were asking April about your work situation, where you're not able to, there people, what was the work situation that you were explaining? And then you were explaining that you're not able to maintain your equanimity during that whatever that incident that happened, right? You want to explain a little bit of that? Because I want to, so um, remember we talked one-on-one, right? So I wanted to take this opportunity to walk everyone through actually what Eckhart Tolle or Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I wanted to give a background to everyone, right? What Eckhart Tolle and Dr. Joe Dispenza are saying in their teachings is that our job on this earth, right, on this earth school, is to figure out what is our conditioned pattern. What are the patterns that exist? And Eckhart does not actually clearly say, figure out your conditioned patterns. But if you read his book, A New Earth, the first almost 5 chapters define the patterns that in general affects humanity, right? The conditioned patterns that exist in almost every human being. And he's saying, complaining, he's teaching it in the form of, instead of saying you have this conditioned pattern, he says you're strengthening the ego by complaining. You're strengthening the ego by holding on to resentments. You're strengthening the ego by blaming. You're strengthening the ego by um, non-forgiveness, right? So what Eckhart actually essentially is saying is, do not strengthen your ego, right? You're strengthening your ego. Do not strengthen your ego. The more you allow your ego to diminish, the more presence will arise, and that will increase your awareness. And what Dr. Joe is saying, Dr. Joe's way of saying is figure out, and a lot of you have done his morning meditations over and over again, right? He's saying, look at the thoughts and emotions that actually bring you to that vibrational energy of frustration, vibrational energy of annoyance, vibrational energy of resentment, so that you can overcome it. He's asking us to overcome it, right? Be that is his pointer towards a new self. So in a lot of I'm sure you'll have watched a lot of testimonials, and Dr. Joe says you're not doing the meditation to do a meditation, you're doing the meditation to change, correct? And doing the meditation to change actually implies I'm no longer going to be the person that's going to feel irritated when everybody is complaining around me. I'm not going to be the person that's going to feel irritated just because they're complaining, right? I'm going to sit in my presence and bring presence to their complaining. So go ahead, Patricia. You wanted to say something. Thank you. And I'll tag everyone while you're speaking.
So I think you were talking about what I was sharing. about how I, during the weekends, meditate and find my, peace and calm and positive energy and work through a lot of things. And then Monday comes. So I bring that joy, the meditations, the little bit of yoga and qigong and good fruit juices in the morning. Like I feed my soul, my body, my spirit, ready for the work week, for the Monday. And I'm approaching, I'm imagining filling the entire space with light. So whoever brings, so I'm trying to, be aware of the energy and stuff. And then people start to come and like bringing their energy and like messing up my stuff. So I was hoping that my presence power will be strong enough to help them get there instead of me being, pulled into whatever negative energies they bring with them. And sometimes I'm successful somewhat, sometimes at some point towards the afternoon, or there's like a big hit that it's still coming. So I think, and I'm resenting them. I I try to change their negativity instead of asking myself questions like what in me is still attracting that I know you gave us an example from even your work environment and stuff, that there is a situation with someone and you did not resent it. You were aware, you were sending this person love and you were forgiving, and then the universe solved the situation, or the person left or something turn around. So you didn't have to actually sit in front of that person and tell her or him, this is what you're doing wrong, you have to change, you have to do the work, you have blah. No, it's just by your present. So I was hoping to do the similar stuff, but I still am maybe not that present enough that it's almost, if I try too hard, it's getting worse. Yesterday, I was meditated after meditation and stuff, and I, on my way to work, I drove, I left later, so there was more traffic, but I was blessing everybody. I was looking at the beautiful sky, listening to my classical music. The trip became beautiful despite the traffic and the stress, but I was asking the universe as I was traveling to please help me. Like my mind's like, how can I be present in every moment? How can I just surrender and just enjoy? Show me, surprise me with something marvelous, whatever. So I'm sending this out there, going there. And then the day, one thing after another went wrong. Despite everything I wanted to set up this first day, I messed up the dates of dropping the vehicle. That caused the fact that, the mechanic was upset. There was a funeral he had to go to. Then I didn't have the vehicle with Rick for one the team. So I had to figure out like how can they use so many things. And in the midst of this, I felt like my soul, like my heart was dropping because I was so upset that I made mistake with that mechanic before, and he always came through, but he's like, Patricia, don't do it with me because you can't be like surprising me with stuff. So I planned it 2 weeks ahead. Everything was on the schedule. And then I put it on my personal scheduler when I came to make the appointment on the wrong day earlier. And when the guy came, or one of the technicians, like, Patricia, I went to pick up the car, but he was so upset because we dropped it a day earlier. And in that moment, I felt like my whole universe fell down because I did everything to prevent that. And then I couldn't forgive myself. I honestly I was like, oh my God, I would have fired myself. This is blah, 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 blah. All the worst case scenarios came to me. And then at some point I dealt with it. I figured it out. I got them going. You know, they were a little delayed. All right. They went okay. But then at night, I just had to sit with myself and I needed to learn how to forgive myself. Honestly sitting, because I am in a management position, so I am judging a lot of people based on their mistakes, and then I'm showing them how to not do it again, how to learn from it, how, you know, I'm not writing them up and things, and everybody thinks I'm weak, whatever. And then this experience put me right there with them, that I'm human. I made this mistake. Then I had to own it. I have to fix it. And then apologize and then make up for stuff. But in the midst of it, I had to forgive myself. And that was the hardest part. I was beating myself out for hours after that. But finally, at some point, toward the end of the day, I just got on my knees and just you know, despite all of it, you figured it out, you did it. You know, I had to talk to myself that I am not my mistake. I am not my failures. I'm not even the things I do right. I'm just the presence behind, and these are all experiences, and I need to be grateful for every single one, not just the good ones, because I think this is what all of us want. And this was my big lesson, that always just want the good ones, didn't really want to work through the bad ones because I didn't want to get sucked into whatever, because they weren't feeling good. Like my heart was palpitating. My stomach would just be heavy, like all the physical sensations of it.
So I remembered what you were talking to April about. Once you said palpitations, it was about driving, right? We were discussing in depth about so here is an example of a condition pattern. So as Dr. Jill said, right, while driving, sometime you had a traumatic event, right? It impinged upon your brain, right? Let's continue the conversation from last week. It impinged upon your brain. And now every time you want to drive on the interstate, you think the same thing is going to happen because you relived that trauma over and over again in your mind, correct? Right? So you've seared that emotion. So what Dr. Joe is saying, and this is what Eckhart would say, right? What Dr. Joe would say is, good evening, April. Thank you so much for joining. Welcome. Good evening.
We manifested April.
Oh my God. Yeah, she was just saying it's not the same unless April is here, and here you are. Good evening, good evening, good evening. So we are continuing on the conversation that we had, and everybody's familiar with April. April is one of our panel members. She's a psychic, a medium, quite a few modalities of healing under her. She provides spiritual guidance and counseling as well. So if anybody is interested, please contact April on Facebook Messenger, and she'd be more than happy to set up a session. So what I was trying to walk Patricia through, April, remember last week she was explaining that she has this fear of driving, right? And what Dr. Jill says, like any traumatic event, like for her, it may be driving. For somebody, it may be like for me, I've been in a car accident, right? Like I was in the passenger and a car head on hit me on my passenger door and broke my hip. So I was like bedridden for 6 weeks. So for the longest time, I wouldn't make a left turn. And it was during a left turn. So I would always go to a place, I would have to figure out how to make all right turns. Like if I had to come back to my house, I had to go right, right. Like even if it meant that like I couldn't get on the median and make a U-turn. Like in Texas, you can do a U-turn. You could get a U-turn. That was impossible for me, right? I had to make right for the longest time. So those are the kind of things that are traumatic, right? So what I wanted to offer to, if you want to give examples, April, to Patricia, how would you overwrite those? And this is the condition pattern. This is a limiting belief that is sponsoring, continuing your behavior of being, your bad behavior, I should say, of not getting on the interstate and going to different cities for 2-3 hours, right? And the condition pattern, one is the trauma has seared, right, in your brain cells. So now you have to use neuroplasticity plasticity to fire and wire a different set of neurons. You fired and wired this set of neurons that have the trauma written in your brain, right? So now you have to fire and wire a different set of neurons. So April, you want to explain how would she overwrite? And I'll explain on my side what Dr. Joe would say. How would you overwrite those neurons? So you want to explain, April? And I think it's not just a traumatic event. I have a feeling from your childhood, you have a conditioned pattern of being panic stricken because of the way your dad behaved with you, right? You were always like that, like, oh, where is this? Like fearful. And so that's a conditioned pattern, right, April? Like I'm like scared and I'm doing this all the time internally, vibrationally, right? So the universe is bringing me more of the things that I can be scared of, that I'm doing this. So go ahead, April, and I'll put myself on mute. Thank you.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things that I could bring up and talk about with this. And one of the patterns that I've noticed for the last couple weeks, because again, I work with clients during the day, is perception. The way that you perceive things affects how you feel. So the mind has a thought. The thought goes to the brain. The brain, which is an organ inside of a skull, which is dark, doesn't actually know anything, sends signals to the nervous system. The nervous system then releases the chemicals. The chemicals is the emotional state. And when you keep having the same thoughts, it keeps triggering the brain, the nervous system. We keep having this same emotion over and over and over. And Dr. Joe does explain this in his series. So you keep triggering your nervous system to have the same chemical reaction, which is the emotion, which key to that is also so a lot of people think that they're trapped in their emotions, but you're not actually trapped in them because they are really just a chemical state in the body. All chemical reactions dissipate at some point, unless you think the thought again and you give it more fuel, basically, right? So the way you perceive things will affect how you feel. The way you perceive things, though, is conditioned by your beliefs. I believe driving is scary. I believe driving is bad. I believe going to the store is stressful. Those are beliefs. And those beliefs can come all the way back from childhood. When the other pattern that I'm seeing in the last couple of weeks is when you grow up in a world of abuse, conflict, neglect, anxiety, your nervous system gets wired for those conditions. And you will be used to those conditions. So this is a lot of the reason why we will get into relationships that are abusive, that are neglectful, that are chaotic. And we will deal with it over and over for years because we are conditioned that that is norm. We're not saying it's good. We're saying it's norm for you and your nervous system. The other thing is that when things are okay, because your nervous system has been conditioned for such chaos, you will create the chaos. Even when it's not there, you will create the anxiety, you will create the disruption, the argument, the issue, because that's actually what your nervous system is used to. And it almost needs it because it doesn't actually know how to do nice, calm, and safe, but it does know how to do chaos and anxiety and worry. It knows how to do that. And it's used to it. And again, the body and the mind like to do the same thing because it is wired that way. So it's easier for the electricity to flow through those circuits. If you want to rewrite it, the brain and the body has to stop and think for a minute. Well, the brain and the body don't like to do that. We like to be lazy. We like to do things quickly. But in order to change the pattern, you have to actually pay attention. Self-awareness is the key. It is the first key, the first step. It is the ultimate key. But becoming aware of what you are saying to yourself, what you are telling yourself is super important. Questioning your perception, questioning your beliefs. Why do I think that? Why do I keep thinking that? Why do I do that? Why am I feeling this way? Those are all things to start doing. The other ways to overwrite beliefs is to do different behaviors. Even though it's uncomfortable, you just do it. And as you continue to do it, you will rewrite the system and the new way will become the norm. The old way, it doesn't ever fully go away because the body doesn't ever forget anything and your cells don't actually ever forget anything. Right now, scientists have caught up to where they're saying that 20 generations of information is being passed down. So your body doesn't actually ever forget, but the new pathway will become so strong, the old pathway will basically dissipate. You could potentially bring it back at some point if you started doing old behaviors again. The other way to do it is through repetition of thought. So this is where like your affirmations would come in. I'm okay, it's okay, we're going to be okay, things are fine, I'm healthy. The problem with affirmations is you can't actually lie to yourself because yourself won't believe yourself. You won't believe yourself. You can't say, I'm a millionaire. You know you're not. But you could say money flows to me easily. This is where Abraham Hicks talks about the way you're phrasing it. And, don't just say I'm a millionaire, say money flows to me easily. So I am a good driver. I can handle all situations. We don't want to say that I'm the best race driver in the world because we know we're not. So, and then of course, when the brain is in theta state, which is that awake sleep state, and also while you're sleeping, you could play a meditation for anxiety. Or you could, there are also not just a meditation, but so what I will put in a lot of times on YouTube is I will type in frequency, like motivation frequency, depression frequency, stomachache frequency, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You could put toe hurts frequency. You will, a certain frequency. Why frequency? Because the body is energy. And I want to change the energy in the cells, which then will therefore change me. Right? And then I can
Sorry, about this frequency. Is it true
Yeah.
that our brain will try to synchronize with whatever frequency is around us? I heard someone that's why like listening to certain music, classical music will calm you, because then you, like, even meditation, Dr. Joe plays in the background, certain music, it helps the frequency, right, of the brain to start synchronizing with it.
So it helps the frequency of the brain, but it also helps the frequency of your cells. So your body is basically energy. Everything in your body is a chemical reaction, which is energy. So it changes your brain, but it also changes your actual cells, the way they're vibrating and the frequency they're vibrating. So then it therefore changes your body. Now, I'm going to give you all a big secret. Okay. It's an NLP secret. And I've talked about me like having NLP training before. NLP is neuro linguistic programming. Okay. So I had a daughter who had gotten in a car accident, and she really refused to drive since then. Couldn't really get her to drive, even to the shortest distance, wouldn't really drive. Now, this accident happened up in the what we call the UP in Michigan, which is the Upper Peninsula, where there is literally 12 foot of snow until like May of it. It's so much snow. It's, you can't even, like, you'd have to go otherwise like to Canada to get that much snow. It's so much snow. So, and the roads are very icy. It was dangerous. And she was at my house one day, and I said, okay, let's fix this. I had her stand up, and you can do this by yourself. Okay. I do this with clients. You stand up and you spin. You can start spinning to the right. And as you're spinning, you're going to say, what is the reason that you're afraid to drive? So for her, it was, I'm going to die. So you start spinning, turning, and you say, I'm going to die, but you say it in different voices. So I said, okay, I need you to spin around and say, I'm going to die like Mickey Mouse. Does that. Spin again. I said, okay, say it to me like SpongeBob. Say it again. I say it to me like a cowboy. Do it again. Say it to me like Marilyn Monroe. Say it to me like Michael Jackson. Say it to me. And it's all these different voices hitting different, like we did country, we did Marilyn Monroe. She's supposed to be sensational, sexy. We're doing a pop star, right? And you can at least pick 5 to 6 different ones. Then I had her spin the other way and do it again, right? And she didn't realize it, but I called her and I said, where are you going? And she said, well, I'm driving to the store. And I said, oh, we're driving? What it does is it rewrites that phrase in so many different forms in the brain that the brain no longer has it as one target, one fear. It eliminates the fear. It's an NLP practice. So tonight I expect you to be standing up and spinning like SpongeBob.
So you spin like just on your barefoot, you spin to the right and say, I'll die.
You can set, so instead of saying spin, I'll just say turn.
Okay, you turn, and as you turn,
you're turning around. Yeah. So you would say, I'm afraid to die in this little kid voice. And then you would say, I'm afraid to die in this other voice. And then you would, and then do it again the other way, at least 5 to 6 times. And it rewrites that fear into all these different, I'm a cowboy, I'm a man, I'm Michael Jackson, I'm SpongeBob. It moves this fear and it stops the single point, which is where your fear is at. And it just makes it to where the brain can't pick it up. It's too ridiculous.
So my fear is
that's
to
like
get
the
stuck.
Easy explanation of it. There's a deeper explanation, but I'm not going to go. So I'm just making it very basic. Like there is an actual like deep that we have a reticular activating system. We have all the, it's a deeper explanation. This is the easiest explanation. It moves it around in the brain.
So now your daughter is driving.
Yep. The only thing she will not do is she still will not go on the highway, but she never really did go on the highway. She's never been a highway driver, but she never really did, even before this. But yeah, she drives all the time.
That's strange because like I have I have to go on highways. So that highway or turning left was never an issue. For me, is getting into unknown like place that I've never been before and missing the turn and being alone and completely panicking in that moment because I don't know where to go.
So that's your fear. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to go. And you spin around.
When I get lost, I don't know where to go. This is fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just like panic because I missed
Yeah.
my turn and this is the familiar ended. I knew my turns around, and then oh my God, it's a new street or something is blocked.
But that's also the belief. So again, when I talk about perception, the reason you have a perception that that is a bad thing is because you have a belief of the fear of the unknown. You have a belief that I should always know what I'm doing. I should always know where I am. Those are beliefs. Those are not necessarily truths, right? When we have beliefs, it doesn't mean they're necessarily truth. They're beliefs. I had a belief that nobody loved me, but that didn't make that belief actually true. I had a belief that nobody liked me, nobody was there for me, but that doesn't mean those are actually true beliefs. So your fears, you're naming them. If I make a wrong turn, I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. What does it matter where to go, what to do? Just keep driving. You're fine. You're okay. So your idea is that I'm now not okay. That's a belief that I have to know every next step or I'm not okay.
This is afraid of getting lost and
Beautiful.
believing that I can be okay if I don't know my next day.
Because I have to know everything and I have to have everything planned out and it has to go just so, or I'm not okay. Right. And a lot of people have that belief and that fear, but that's how you look at your beliefs. Your perception is as if I don't follow the plan exactly, I will not be okay. That's a belief.
Incredibly amazing, April. Thank you so much. So infinite gratitude. I see that pattern in her. It's not just about driving, it's her morning routine as well. Like she wants everything exactly. If I wake up at 4 a.m. and do my celery juice, it has to be lemon water, celery juice, heavy metal detox smoothie, shower, do my meditation, go to work, and the next day it should happen. Now just imagine if the next day she has a flat tire, the third day there's rain and snow, the fourth day there's something, her world falls apart. So the limiting belief in her mind actually is things have to be in order. So your life, realize, Patricia, and this is for anybody that has had a very chaotic childhood, they are wanting order, order and be in control the rest of their lives. But realize what Eckhart is saying, all forms are unstable. Buddhism, they say impermanence of form, right? There's impermanence of form. So it's never going to be the same. It's never not, and that's why Dr. Joe actually keeps us in the unknown. And this is what you're doing his meditations, but you're not realizing the power of what he is saying. You're not embodying the meditation. You're just going through the routine of, like Eckhart says, right? I need to do a meditation, and you're doing, but you're not embodying the meditation, because every meditation, he says, trust the unknown. Where is your trust in the unknown?
Yeah. It's
And
anxiety. It's authentic anxiety, having to have things, because if everything goes okay, then I'm okay.
And that's what she needs to overwrite, right? She needs to overwrite her neurons of anxiety. So the way you overwrite the neurons of anxiety is by saying, I trust the unknown. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm driving in my car. Okay, the car breaks down. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know the world, the universe is here to support me. Somebody will come rescue me. I can call AAA. I can call a whatever towing service. I can call so many things, right? Trusting that the universe is going to offer help in millions of ways. But what you're doing is you have that fear, and that fear is going to beget fear, because vibrationally, internally, you're fearful, right? So, and that's why I was saying, and there are a lot of times I've advised you that if I were you to overwrite that neuron, right, I would go to a different, I know I need to do groceries on the weekend. I'll just go to a different grocery store. I'll figure out how to get there. I don't need to go to the same grocery store. Right? To break my routine, okay, I want to make celery juice today. I don't need to do the lemon water celery juice heavy metal detox smoothie this day. Just to break that habit, and that's the main thing. Every day, live like I don't know what's gonna happen. Yeah, I'm gonna go maybe do lemon water celery juice. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. Right? It happens, it doesn't happen. And this is something I picked up from Byron Katie. Actually, she says she doesn't have a checklist. So there's no checklist that I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Come Saturday, I'm going to do this, this, this. I'm going to make my healing broth. I'm going to do this. No, change it. Do something different. Don't make healing broth. Make something different for that weekend. Until you train your body. And this is what Dr. Joe is talking about. You're listening to his morning meditations day after day after day, year after year, month after month, year after year. You're not listening and embodying that morning meditation. The morning meditation is about changing that routine of yourself, that you cannot get into the habit of the same you every day. If you do the same you, you'll get the same you in the future. Right?
So I must say something, because before I met you, before I, certain events brought me that I was unemployed at that point. So, and I needed some, some spiritual work to make sense out of all of this that was happening to me, divorce and the loss of job, and my kid went out. Like everything was falling off of me that I needed so much to have with me for my safety. And then when I turned into spiritual work and meditations, and was reading Eckhart, and then you introduced us to Dr. Joe's, which was incredible too. And all the other Sadhguru I started, seeing, following him. Hicks, the affirmation, the law of attraction, all sorts of stuff. But I used to, on medical medium, of course, I was also sick. I couldn't eat, like my stomach was completely not functioning. It was a lot of things. So I almost were at the moment that I wanted to stop existing. It was so painful. I suffered every day. I had zero energy. So everything I did in that one moment, cold turkey, stopped eating meat, completely went onto started meditating, coming to, like, I created, these are all new things that pulled me out of my old self. So I became a new person. Like, people would not believe. I would sleep till 10 o'clock. I couldn't get out of bed. Even when I used to go, to school and stuff.
It's understandable. It's understandable, Patricia. What we are saying is more work needs to be done. Right? Yeah, you may have changed some things. But because what I'm saying is, if you drink celery juice, lemon water celery juice, but you're living by the hormones of stress, you're converting the celery juice into adrenaline and cortisol. All you're doing is taking good organic celery juice and convert. This is what Dr. Joe is saying. You can have the best organic vegan food, but if you're living by the hormones of stress throughout the day, you're converting all of that into cortisol and adrenaline. You're wrecking your nervous system. So what's the point in eating, taking lemon balm and taking ashwagandha and zinc and this thing? You're compromising your immune system by being in hormones of stress.
But something
Right?
changed a little bit, because I haven't gone to the
I-
doctor for 3 years.
I understand. What we are saying, we are trying to give you, don't get defensive. Don't get defensive, right? What we are trying to do is, it's like just like you made the decision to, on a dime, change to vegan, change to medical medium protocol. On a dime, you have to train your body not to do the things that you used to do before. You have to make, and this is the statement that Dr. Joe says, right? The amplitude of the decision that you make need to overcome the
Program.
the programming of the brain in the past and the body in the past, whatever programming you have in the brain and the body in the past, right? It has to override. It has to be so much, the vibrational frequency of the decision, just like the vibrational frequency of the decision that you made to change, right? With medical medium. When you made that decision, you completely changed. The same thing, trusting the unknown has to be a decision that you make, that I'm going to trust the unknown. I can drive 2 hours away from my house and I will know how to get back home safely. I trust the unknown. I will find the right person, the right human being will arise. The right people will arise to guide me back. I can trust my GPS. I'll find a way back. I've lived in the United States for 20, 30 years. I know how to make my way back. Right? But until you wire your brain to do, just like, instead of me going right turns, and I'll give you an example. One was doing right turns, right? And the first time I learned how to drive, I was trying to merge, like get up on the ramp and merge into left traffic, right? And I almost had an accident. I said, no more, I'm not going to drive on the interstate. This is too much. Like my nervous system got such a shock, and my ex-husband was yelling at me when I did that. I said, I'm not driving. And for the 1993 till 2003, I did not drive. Like 10 years, I just drove on streets in this huge big city, not driving on the interstate. Then one day I was so hungry, I was coming back from picking up food, and I saw the ramp to get on into the interstate, and I got on the ramp and I was like, man, this is so easy. You can just get on the ramp and you just drive faster than the traffic that is coming, and you get merged and you're done. And I started driving on the interstate. There, the fear is gone. 1 second. So learn what I'm trying to say to everyone, right? Listen to Dr. Joe's. It's not enough that we listen to Dr. Joe's meditations. It's about application of the information, right? How do I apply that information? And with that, I'll try and go to Francesca because it's getting late. Francesca, we are actually talking about, so one of the examples that Patricia gave last time you were there last time, right? On the Facebook Live. She was talking about how she couldn't drive on the interstate, like going 4 hours, right? So we are showing her how, using neuroplasticity, you rewire your brain, right? This is what Dr. Joe is saying. Do the opposite. Train. Your body is always going to take you to the familiar. Your body is always going to take you to okay, I'm going to be afraid of traffic. I cannot be in this thing. How do you train your body to do something different? And this is one limiting belief. We'll talk about another limiting belief, because I feel our life is about overcoming these conditioned patterns, overcoming these limiting beliefs, right? So you want to talk about it? And then we'll close after you
Sure.
speak.
And-
Thank you.
Okay. So, and one of the things you highlighted actually is also recognizing that there is a preamble, like an anticipation that I'm going to be going into traffic. So remember, when you're vibrating at a higher frequency, you are now setting the tone for what's going to happen before it even happened. So you're manifesting that traffic. And being aware, being in awareness and being present really is my go-to key now, like for everything. It's like, you know, I when I recognize that my mind is forming a limiting belief, you know, because it's anticipating something is going to happen before it happens, right away I'm like, oh, my mind is in future psychological time, right? And the key is to surrender. And I think that's probably the word I feel that's coming up. I wasn't there last week, sorry. I forgot.
Oh, no worries.
I was at an appointment, but anyway, yeah. So the word, the key is to surrender, because what you've done, Patricia, is beautiful. Like, you know, coming from where you came, you know, and having this routine, developing a beautiful practice around this routine. So you've now trained your mind to concentrate, to focus. You know, you've trained a new pattern of behavior that is healthy because it supports your well-being and all of these things in that regards. Now, the next step, which is usually the hardest step, and this is something I've intertwined into that training, but from what I'm gathering, just listening, you know, just now, it seems maybe some of that didn't really get the embodiment piece, which Poonam has mentioned needs to take place. So whilst you're developing this routine, and that's great, you've now rewired your mind to have this routine. We have to be careful we don't become identified with that from, you know, control, because when we're trying to maintain control, to have this routine and not break it no matter what, or something might happen, everything is impermanent, right? Impermanence, right? It's likely going to be disrupted. That's just life, right? You know, the ebb and flow, it's like the rise and fall. I always say it's like the heartbeat, right? And learning to surrender, you know, using myself as the greatest example. I had the same thing, like this routine, you know, oh my God, I'd wake up, I'd meditate, get Charlotte ready to school, the whole 9 years. And it was like unbroken routine, you know, and then I incorporated, and I'm carefully incorporating different things, you know. I started AW protocol. I started, you know, little things that were like, okay, now I'm taking care of the physical well-being. And I had this whole flow going. And then what happens? Universe threw me into the hospital. Guess what happened to my routine? Out the door. I talk about like surrender. This was like surrender at a whole new level. Thank God I'd been, you know, practicing surrender prior to that. So all the routine, everything as I knew it, had to go out of the door. And, you know, to me, that's like I call it like a whole new level of surrender, because to me, it's like one of the greatest way of practicing letting go, just letting go, because things are going to happen in our lives, you know, that's going to really raising kids, as you know, you have children, right? So, you know, things are going to come up and it's going to disrupt that routine. Just surrender it, surrender. So here is the key to surrender, is becoming present with whatever is arising in the current moment. So if you're, let's say, driving in this case, right, and all of a sudden, so you have no, first of all, you know, become aware that when your mind is in that future psychological time, and breathe, bring yourself back to presence. And then as you're driving, all of a sudden, oh, traffic came up. Oh, darn. Okay, surrender to that. That moment you realize, because that's the moment you can recognize, okay, is your mind going to start bringing up these thoughts, like, whatever it is that you feel when you're caught in this traffic, whatever story the ego mind is making, right, or the pain body is becoming triggered. Be aware of that as it's happening and allow yourself to stay in that awareness. It might feel like, for me, when I'm working on something really deep in that regards, and it's really noisy and it's anxiety or something, it usually makes me feel like quivering sometimes, and that's okay. Becoming present with it can feel, like you're trembling or you're quivering or you're wanting to be squirmy. Whatever it is, just stay with it and breathe with it. That's the key to dissolving it. And watch what happens the next time you take that route in traffic. Because this is what is trying to teach you. The lesson is becoming aware, when your mind is drifting into that future psychological time, and really knowing that it's okay to surrender and trusting. Trust is everything on this path. Trusting in faith, trusting with all your might that, what, there are infinite possibilities. The universe does have your back. And if you're supposed to be somewhere at a certain time, things are going to happen to get you there. You got to trust that that's what's going to happen. And if you're not going to arrive on time, yeah, because traffic, it's out of your control or whatever the case may be, that's okay too, because you don't know why you were late. You don't know what is it along the way that might have happened, or, universe is in a way saving you from, experiencing whatever it is that's happened that you missed out on, right? So, it could be an accident, it could be anything. So the key is trusting in faith, trusting in that process, because this is how, in Buddhism, I say this is how we learn to get out of our own way, right? And this is how we're slowly, so by leaning into that trust, it's like taking baby steps towards surrender. And play with it. It's beautiful when you play with it. It doesn't mean you're breaking your routine. Who said you're breaking anything? Here's the key question, a good question. Who is telling you you're breaking anything to begin with? The mind, right? We are like our worst critics. Like, oh, believe me, like, oh my God, I say we crucify ourselves over and over again. So we are our worst critics in that regards, and I swore at my mind sometimes if it gets too bothersome, I'm like, okay, ego, thanks for letting me know how you feel. That's the friendly way when I talk to it, that is not how I feel, and yeah, so many different ways, just play with it, because it's the only way you're going to rewire that part of you that's afraid of surrendering and that wants to maintain control because it's feeling safe. It's the only way you're kind of coaxing it slowly, softening into the process, rather than going, okay, and breaking it. It's not going to work for you, right? Everything will come up to resist if you go that route. So softening, play with it, play with surrender, even if it's one thing, like from your routine or whatever the case may be. Like I said, simple. Start with the whole traffic thing, right? Like, recognize when your mind is drifting into future psychological time to manifest something that's not even with you in your present moment where you're at before you even start the journey, right? The mind is good at doing that. I saw a question. Is that the question we're working on as well too, from Josie Poonam in the chat?
She just, while we were talking, you can read it for everyone that's online.
Okay,
it stems out of the conversation that we were having.
Okay, so the question is, what is a good way to call your positive energy back when other negative energy is at work or anywhere that pulls you in so that you don't get stuck and stay in those feelings? My go-to practice is being present, and I practice presence in a way where no matter where I go or when I show up, I'm showing up from that presence. Even if my mind is engaged, I'm in aware presence, right? And the reason So before we get to present, we need to do, our inner work. So for example, let's say if we're in a conversation based on what Josie is asking, right? So if we're in a conversation with somebody and they're really negative, or right now, okay, let's use a realistic example, the external world. My God, there's so many things happening, all over the news. We're seeing it when, a city isn't burning down, somebody's getting shot somewhere, something is on fire, and then when those things aren't happening, there's war, and everybody's state of consciousness is being stirred like all over the world right now in horrific ways, right? We were actually talking about that in our Zensit, the planned, chaos, right? And when we've become identified with the mind, okay, and we're flowing from the states of consciousness that's outside of ourselves, so we're not present. Of course, it's easy to get pulled into those streams of consciousness, whatever, Kool-Aid is being delivered through the pipeline, right, to keep our nervous system dysregulated, right? Because from a dysregulated nervous system, everything can penetrate your consciousness. You're penetrable, right? So to call your positive energy back, for starters, is recognizing, when you're no longer present. That's the most powerful way to do that, is because the moment you catch it, meaning you're aware, you become aware of it, you recognize it, take a breath. Take 2 breaths if you need to. And reconnect with your inner body. And I can guarantee it doesn't matter what's happening outside when you're present. If it's not directly affecting your life, really, I always say question it, right? So if something is coming up and there's so much noise and everybody's like, oh my God, we got to do this, we have to do this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, how is this situation that's happening outside of you directly impacting your life right here, right now? That's a question I ask myself usually. How is it even affecting my life right here, right now? Does it even relate to me? Does it relate to me because the rich people are making billions of dollars, they're using humanity, whatever? Somebody told me this story, by the way, and I'm aware of what's happening. And I'm like, how is that impacting me directly right here, right now? But when I take my breath and I come back to presence, it's not affecting me, because presence is presence, right? I'm here and now, I'm breathing. I have a roof over my head. My bills are paid. I have food in my refrigerator. My kids are happy, and I start to focus on, and I start to become grateful and recognize that which I already have. And the fact that no matter what happens, the universe is always taking care of me. When your consciousness is penetrable, it means you're carrying essentially a pain body imprint. So there's a condition within you that needs healing and evolving. And I try to use the word dissolving sometimes, because again, just simply becoming aware is powerful enough to, like, it vanishes, like the entity just runs away kind of thing, but there are certain, conditions within that, it would have been passed down from generation to generation. There has a collective imprint, so it's much bigger than you. And so in that case, it takes a little bit more effort to do the inner work, the associated inner work, in order to understand it, become so fully present with it, it actually becomes dormant. Because from the awareness of the understanding, you're learning how no longer to feed that limiting belief. And what you starve within you, so if there's a thought that's coming up constantly, when you starve it out energetically, because everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, when you energetically no longer feed that thought, because every time it comes up, you recognize, oh, yeah, you know, pain body. Oh yeah, yeah, ego. Oh yeah, yeah, it's my mind caught in future psychological time. Oh, I'm now caught in past psychological time. Oh, this is, you know, not just mine, you know, the more so recognizing, and those are example of recognizing it, not, you know, for you to reiterate it, just recognizing that's what's arising. So it's silently, right? Like the wind. This is what's arising. And the moment you recognize it, you choose a different direction. So you don't feed it. You don't go into the thought, into the story that it's making, and, you know, and become lost in it. Because if that's happening, then this is where we become present, yes, with the story and the meaning making, and we learn about its pattern of arising, right? The frequency of its arising. And as we learn about that, we start to understand, okay, so this is how this little entity works, right? And as we start to learn about its behavior, what triggers it, you know, we start to question it, then we start to understand how to no longer feed it. It eventually becomes dormant. And now you're no longer penetrable through external means. So the key to not become, to be, you know, the key to, I guess, remain still, or I don't want to use the word impenetrable, but the key to, because my ego is going to go, oh yeah, I'm going to show you, and something is going to come up, right? So we have to be mindful of that too. But the key is to remain present, remain, you know, I always say stay in your lane, right? And staying in our lane means staying in that state of pure awareness. And then in Buddhism, we say pure awareness is embodied, it's embodied. You know, so when we're doing our self-examination work, and this relates to you too, Patricia, and we understand this pattern, whatever this pattern of behavior is, the pattern of thinking, the pattern of feeling, and all of its interconnected patterns that arises, because now we're thinking this thought, everything that interconnects with it is going to arise. You know, it's nature of the mind. We come into the wisdom of understanding of, oh, so this is what this pattern is, right? Journaling is key here. And as we start to understand its behavior, how it arises, why it triggers, and so forth, that wisdom, I call that wisdom, understanding is wisdom, right? So that beautiful wisdom extraction that we experience in the process, we then use it, we apply it. This is the embodiment piece, right? We then start to apply that wisdom into our day-to-day life. So that might mean bringing everything we're doing to a screeching halt and go, oh my goodness, okay, so this is how I'm going to start to show up. And you start to practice, because the more you practice, the more you embody, right? And the next time that trigger happens, so maybe you might be in a conversation with somebody and that triggering happens again, you immediately recognize it. And instead of falling prey to that trigger, you've recognized it. You come back to presence. And what eventually happens is you get to the state in a state of consciousness, to a point in your journey where majority of the time you're no longer triggerable. And I know the mind is going to say, yeah, I'm going to show you. And that's okay, but it happens. It's an organic process. There's an order to it, and it requires embodiment, you know, bringing into practice, applying that wisdom that we're coming into as we're, you know, a wisdom realization, right? Applying it and practice is how we repattern or rewire, or whichever word we want to use there. But I hope that answers the question, Josie. Presence, it's always, you know, take that breath.
Beautiful, Francesca. Grateful for the insights and wisdom.
Inner body, yeah, sorry. Inner body, I forgot to mention the word, that's key. Presence is inner body, right? So connecting either with the hara or the heart, you know, wherever you land, inner body connection.
And that's the measure that everyone needs to have. Patricia and Josie, is when you sit in your meditation, like when on Monday when I was doing my meditation, at the end of the meditation, my heart and brain were in so much coherence that all I heard Dr. Jill, when I closed my eyes and stayed silent, was DMT released from 6 into the heart. And I saw the molecule DMT in my, like in that state, right? In that theta state, I saw the molecule DMT. Right? I was that coherent, that peaceful. And that is what he is saying, that in your meditation, when you're doing meditation, are you getting to that heart coherence? If you're not getting to that heart coherence, then when you come to work, all this negativity is going to impinge upon you. So as Eckhart says, right, as the world is impinging upon us, are we coming from that space of DMT? Is my heart in coherence that I can love this person for being negative?
Or we can recognize, the
They may-
person as being where they're at in their state of consciousness has nothing to do with you. You
They-
remain grounded in your practice. Is what we.
So that is what I'm saying is, and as Francesca said, embody your meditation, right? Get it into your core of your cellular being, right?
And take your practice with you, not because you're not sitting on the cushion. When you're going wherever you go, take it with you.
The other thing I heard Dr. Joe say during like the formula course, right, about heart coherence, like you say, right, Patricia, like things are happening to others. I mean, why does medical medium come to New York, but he comes 4 hours away from me, kind of, right? So what Dr. Joe clearly said is, when you are in meditation, what I heard him say, for the very first time I heard him say, is when we have the thought of, when we are in the emotional state of gratitude and we have the thought that medical medium, so the vehicle for or the launch, the correct word would be the launch pad for the intention to be sent out is our elevated emotional state. And then the thought during that emotional state. Does that make sense? So if you're not feeling joyful, if you're not feeling ecstatic within us, just like April was saying, right? Your affirmations will not work. You saying, let's say, what was the common affirmation? Every day and every way, I'm getting better and better. Every day, just repeating that doesn't work. Like Dr. Joe clearly said, you have to be in that level of heart coherence. Like you're feeling so ecstatic that then that thought that you raise, right? At that, the field is ecstatic, and now a thought is rising. Medical medium, I want to see medical medium in person. Or whatever it may be. You may say, I need a new oven. The thought of the new oven has to realize in this ecstatic state. You have to be ecstatic. So just realize all throughout the day, how ecstatic am I?
Right, so we can manifest that from the state of lack. That, right, he's not here, and now I want him to be here, but he's not here.
Right.
It has to be
in, so do you remember when I said, I'll finish this thought, Francesca, and then you can speak. So I exactly remember what happened to me. All of us in group meditation used to do sacred acoustics meditation, And one of the meditations we used to do is Yoga Nidra, right? And I was so, that day, like we all went into meditation and we had such a beautiful, and that's why I always encourage that people should join us in group meditation. The space was so beautiful, and this lady was talking about being in Yoga Nidra is a guidance of, you're in a hammock, and she's taking us through the all the 7 chakras, right? She's saying they're oranges and the yellow sun, like she's pointing us, oh, there's a sunflower and there's oranges, and you're lying in this hammock with I was actually like very like joyful in that hammock. And 2 weeks later, there was a hammock in my apartment courtyard, right? When he said that, right, when I listened to him say that during the formula course, I can realize every time anything happened, I was ecstatic about that thought. I was ecstatic about the thought of sun pouring into my bathroom if I had enough light. There was no intention, let it happen now. I was just ecstatic about it, right? How would it feel like when I was looking at AW's kitchen backsplash and kitchen counter? I was like, why can't I have a white cabinet and white backsplash? It looks so pristine and clean, like a very clean space to cook in, right? I would just be ecstatic about it. So that ecstasy is what, and now realize how ecstatic are we. I'm questioning Josie and you, Patricia. How ecstatic are you, both of you, throughout your day? If you've done a 9-hour day, and that's why I was saying you cannot do a 9-hour day in high beta brain activity and say, oh, I'm in brain and heart coherence, right? There has to be a break where you're trying to bring in that brain and heart coherence throughout the day so that you can pour in the brain and heart coherence, right? With that, go ahead, Francesca, so that we can wrap up. It's getting late for Patricia and Josie, I think. Thank you.
Okay, we can continue actually on our next live.
No, go ahead.
I think what I want to share might be a little longer. I was going to share an example of manifestation.
Okay, yeah, then if it's going to be longer, let's do it next time, because it's like...
Yeah, because I was going to share it from when the brain is, and the heart isn't in coherence and you're like a mess because, life is throwing certain things at you, but manifestation can actually still happen. Right. Yeah, so I'll share it perhaps the next time.
And that's what Dr. Joe is saying. When you're in that survival mode, right? People are negative, and you're making mistake after mistake, like your day to day. Your heart is pumping against a closed system. Your brain is out of coherence. At that moment, the moment your brain went out of coherence, you should have said, I need to step out for 20 minutes, go into your car, do a meditation, and come back. Because everything has to stop. Like, you need to realize, excuse me, am I in brain and heart coherence or not? If I'm not in brain and heart coherence, things will just, domino effect. I'm just going to create more and more chaos, right? And then when you made the mistake, in spite of what I would have done at that point in time, I would have gone, oh, look, instead of beating yourself up that you put it on the wrong calendar, I would have gone, oh, look, there was a moment of loss of presence on my part. Because all that is indicating that you lost your presence. The moment you needed to put it on the calendar, you lost your presence. If you were in presence, you would not have made the mistake. Right?
Yeah.
Anytime you're making a mistake, like somebody says, oh, I lost my keys. No, you were not present when you put down the keys. You didn't take a moment to know that, hey, I left my keys on this desk, or I left my keys in the bathroom, or I left my keys on the kitchen counter. right? You didn't take a moment to be present. So all I would have done if I were in your position, instead of beating myself up all throughout the day and coming back home, and there's nothing called forgiveness, all you have to admit and take responsibility for, I was not present. If I had presence power at that moment in time, and if you realize, take yourself back to the day that you put that item on the calendar. I bet there were 100 million things happening at the same time, and you just rushed and put the thing on the calendar. Right?
And that goes back to catching yourself, right? Just keep catching it and bring yourself back to presence over and over again.
So even though I'm not the fastest person on the face of this earth, I do every task with presence at work. And if I make a mistake, I make a mistake and I realize the reason why I made a mistake is I lost presence power because two people were messaging me on instant messenger. I was on a call and I was trying to do something at the same time. Where is my presence? Right? So that's what it is. Anytime we make a mistake, it's loss of presence power. And that's all planetary intelligence is showing us. Is you lost your presence, Patricia. Okay, next time I'll try and be more present in my life, right? With that, we continue. I want to hear your manifestation description and story, Francesca, okay? So we'll continue on this topic because it's very interesting, right? I want to get everybody to get into this rhythm of, okay, how do I manifest? Because Dr. Joe is about to release his abundance course. I want everybody, like Dr. Joe is kind of almost, there's like a surge of enthusiasm for abundance in our community, right? To allow that abundance to flow out into the universe. I want that abundance to flow out for all our group members as well, for all of you, right? I want that abundance. So that's the enthusiasm that I want to bring in because Dr. Joe, with one last thing, y'all cannot believe it. He is so incredibly a perfectionist. If Josie and I took the course, his studio, doing the course in the studio broke down. So he just, he was supposed to stand in front of his screen and actually do the coursework in front of his screen. He could not do it. He just stood in front of a microphone and just delivered his lecture, which is good enough, right? Because it's Dr. Joe. Dr. Joe and Eckhart being in front of a mic is sufficient enough. They don't need to be on this thing. Then after the course, we all forced him, we all messaged, we all gave the survey that we want the course, we want to purchase the course, we want a copy of the course, right? Because it was not available as a copy. So he went back to the studio and re-recorded it in front of the screen so that he could build a course for us. And he's releasing it this September. He is so, mind-boggling. Like the perfectionism within him and his team is like so heartwarming. And we'd see how the course goes. But you'll have a chance to sign up for it and watch lesson number 1, I think, this weekend. On the 13th and 14th, y'all can watch it for free. So sign up for the course and it's on his website. Sign up and watch the first course. Okay. With that, many blessings. Thank you so much for choosing your divinity over your humanity. Many, many blessings and eternally grateful for your presence. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.